Welcome to this ICFslalom podcast episode, part of the series running until the Los Angeles 2028 Olympic Games. We bring you the inside stories from around the globe from the people who make canoe slalom so special. Here's your host, John Gregory.
A warm welcome to the first episode of this special daily series. Thanks for joining me. We will bring you a short daily episode as we guide you on what to expect the next day at the ICF 2026 Canoe Slalom and Kayak Cross World Championships, and a recap on the last day's racing in Oklahoma City, USA. My opening thought: these worlds come 12 years after the Deep Creek Worlds and 37 years after the legendary Savage Worlds of '89. Today we will preview what to expect. I'm joined by 3 times USA World Championship silver medalist Scott Shipley and Riversport founder Mike Knopp. To help set the scene for what to expect at the Oklahoma City Worlds, here is my conversation with Scott and Mike. So, Mike, I mean, it doesn't seem that long ago that our last episodes at the Penrith Worlds, I guess that was October last year, that you were inviting people to Riversport, OKC, with 10 months or so to go. So I'm guessing that year has gone very quickly. Fill us in.
It's gone very quickly, John. It does feel like just yesterday we had that discussion, and here we are. But it's great. You know, we've spent a lot of time putting together the volunteers, the program. You know, it's extra special for us, obviously, because we also have the enthusiasm building for LA 28 and the fact that we're going to be the host for Canoe Slalom here in Oklahoma City. So there's a real buzz, you know, about it. And, you know, as Scott knows, you know, we started here 10 years ago and no one knew anything about what Canoe Slalom was or is. And now we're making Oklahoma City fans, you know, of the sport. And our mayor, in fact, has become an expert, so to speak, of the sport. Like, he knows some of the players, which I think is more than probably any mayor in America could say right now. So I think that's exciting that we just have a really engaged community. And it happens to be, you know, there's some special things going on here. Like it's the centennial for Route 66, which is a big thing in Oklahoma. We have the longest stretch of Route 66 here. And so there's kind of a year-long celebration going on. So we're embracing that with this event. Everyone will get to experience that when they come in. And we've got, we can talk more about this later, but we've got classic cars and all kinds of things that will kind of just enhance the experience for people coming in. And I know folks from Europe are intrigued by Route 66. I've had experience with that, finding that there's actually a festival in the Czech Republic about Route 66. So, you know, I think it will have a lot of interest. And then it's also America 250. You know, it's you know, we have a lot of celebration going on around that. Just a lot of buzz, and of course the event itself. We've been making improvements to the venue over the past year, kind of a refresh that we needed to do anyway. And we just got a kayak cross ramp structure in place, with that being installed on Monday. So things coming together.
Yeah, it's amazing. So, I mean, in that conversation that we had before, you talked about the importance of Native America, First Nations, Indigenous culture, actually, I guess, between both Penrith, Australia, and Oklahoma. Do you want to elaborate or kind of recap?
Yeah. I mean, I think we don't want to give away too many surprises, but we do have a great opening ceremony planned. That is, I've got a whole entertainment committee that's been working several months on this, and we're going to showcase that indigenous culture. You know, the first paddlers in America, you know, were Native Americans, and in particular, a couple of the tribes that are headquartered in Oklahoma. So, you know, I think that's a really fun and intriguing connection, and very much a connection to Penrith, you know, and how they showcase the indigenous cultures there. So, I mean, I think everyone will get to see that and experience that. And then we've got some, we call them fancy dancers and just a lot of pageantry, I guess I'd say, surrounding that.
You know, I think from my side, it's so exciting to have the World Championships coming back to America again, and even more exciting to see Mike Knopp bringing it, not just the World Championships to Oklahoma City, but also those Olympics to Oklahoma City, which is kind of really the heartland of America. And so people are going to get this very different perspective on America than they might have gotten in Los Angeles, for example. So this is going to be a wonderful event. It's going to be the prelude to probably one of the most wonderful things to happen in canoe sport in America ever.
Okay, so picking up on what you said, what were you doing when Worlds were last in the States? So we've had it twice, Savage Worlds in '89 and Deep Creek in 2014. That didn't quite coincide, I don't think, with some of your racing career. What were you up to in those events?
Well, I was knocking on that door very hard for the 1989 Worlds. That was the John, Davey, Jed, this wonderful U.S. canoe and kayak team that had had so many successes since the 79 Worlds, and it really culminated in that 1989 Worlds. And I was 17 or 18 years old at the time and desperately trying to get on that U.S. team. I was still in high school. I had been on the team to the pre-Worlds, but I did not make it for the 89 Worlds. So I was the forerunner for that World Championships. And so that was kind of the bookend, one end of the bookend. And then I had retired by the time of the Deep Creek World. So kind of the other end of that bookend.
That's pretty cool claim to fame, though. We didn't obviously know the significance of the Savage '89 Worlds, but yeah, it's legendary.
It was, yeah. And when you talk about bringing together the sport in America, I think there were something like 20 or 30,000 spectators at that event. They brought a train up from Cumberland, Maryland, to let people watch the event and take them back out. And so, yeah, it was an amazing thing to be a part of, and certainly looking forward to seeing what happens at this World Championships in Oklahoma City.
So while I've been doing all these podcast episodes, I've been chatting obviously with the paddlers. So Lynn Simpson was sitting on the wall at Bala eating fish and chips in the '81 Worlds. Jiri Priskovic was a 2-year-old running up and down the hills in Nottingham in '95. Steffi Horn was on the terraces at Augsburg in 2003. And Evie Liebfarth was a runner, I think a judge runner, at the Deep Creek Worlds in 2014.
That's amazing. Yeah, look at her now.
Yeah, I know, exactly. So yeah, it's always, we won't know for another 10 or 20 years, but yeah, who will have been sitting on the bank at Oklahoma City watching these Worlds, and yeah, that'll be part of their story in 10 or 15 years time.
It's funny the inspiration it has. I trained with a guy named Patrice Gagnon, who a lot of people thought could have won the '87 Worlds. In the end, I think he was seventh at those World Championships in Bourg Saint Maurice. He had been to the Jonquière World Championships, and I think was also a runner, not a kayaker at all, and not a kayaker in the family. And then came out to be this amazing, top Canadian over probably a 10-year period there. And so it is interesting how these inspire greatness later when you see what comes of it.
Yeah. So Mike, obviously, well, North America particularly, or world, caught up with the World Cup in soccer at the moment. I mean, it seems also that these worlds in kayak, canoe, slalom seem like a much longer term strategy, again, to build awareness, in this case, in whitewater and paddle sport in the US.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, we've got this amazing opportunity with the Olympics, just 2 years in 2 years. And so wanting to leverage this as much as we can to build excitement. The fact that we're going to have these Olympic events here in 2028 will naturally put a spotlight on Oklahoma and be the Olympics for Middle America. And so you have two choices if you live in this part of the country or on the East Coast and you don't want to go all the way to LA, you can watch canoe slalom or watch softball. And probably people will watch both. And I think if they can get a ticket. Tickets are going fast already. So there's obviously a lot of interest. And so we think that we see this as just a prelude. But normally, I mean, the World Championships, obviously it's the biggest event in the sport. And it's huge in and of itself, will be the largest international event, really, I think, that Oklahoma City has hosted with as many countries that'll be participating. And so the mayor is very the governor and the state are very excited about leaning into this. Kind of like you said, we've got a lot of international interest in people discovering America, coming in to watch the World Cup, and now I think the same thing we can continue with this event and then on to the Olympics. So I think it's very exciting. I was just thinking about your question to Scott before about the last one which was in Deep Creek, and I was there, because I was just trying to learn about this sport. I was starting to talk to Scott, I think back then, about building a whitewater course. I was talking to somebody the other day, like, had you told me back then that we would be not only hosting a world championship, the next world championship in the sport, but also the Olympics. I would have thought that's crazy. I mean, it's totally crazy, but here we are.
So a wonderful connection too. What should the international community and spectators expect at Riversport OKC Worlds in that connection? You've alluded to a little bit already, but how is the city and the wider region and state getting behind the event?
We have this thing called the Oklahoma Standard. We like to say it's our hospitality that is, just kind of embedded in the culture and the people. And I think our guests are going to experience that. Obviously, the way they're welcome, but also the activities. We have a group of people that are planning activities for people coming in from out of the country, even athletes in the, not during the Worlds, but in the weeks, the week leading or the week before, about going to, experience some of our cultural attractions. Like we have the National Cowboy and Western Heritage Museum. We have the First Americans Museum. We have, the stockyards and the cowboy, the culture that is really embedded into our community, and buffaloes and all these different things. So we really want people to experience Oklahoma and in Middle America. And as I said earlier, we got some really special additions to this that just coincides in the fact that it coincides with the Route 66 celebration. And so we have every day of the Worlds, we'll have a different era of cars featured or motorcycles during the event. That is just a fun thing for people to see and understand that that's just a really important part of our culture here is call it the Mother Road. And so, and ironically, it's the road to LA. So I like to say the day that we found out the confirmation of the Olympics being confirmed for Oklahoma City with canoe slalom, I took Casey Eichfeld up to Arcadia, Oklahoma, which is just north of Oklahoma City. And it's a town that's on Route 66. And there's this old sign that's hanging there saying, Los Angeles, 1,360 miles. And so Casey stood there with his helmet and his paddle, and we sent that to the mayor of Los Angeles, and she thought that was great. So really trying to form that connection, and the Route 66 really links us. So, and I would say when I was lobbying to get the Olympic events here in Oklahoma City, I mean, that started 7 years ago. I had to keep it secret for forever. And it was really hard to keep. There was like 3 of us who knew about it. And I wrote a letter for the mayor, and we collaborated on. We threw out all the different reasons why it makes sense to have canoe slalom in Oklahoma City, and we obviously mentioned Route 66, Native American culture, the fact that we are the birthplace of Jim Thorpe, the world's greatest Olympian, arguably, Will Rogers, obviously legend in Hollywood, and but we really ended with, we can bring the Olympics to Middle America. And so that is what we really want to showcase at the Worlds this year, is kind of the start of that.
Okay. I mean, you've got 3 things on your program that I wanted to pick up. You've started to describe them maybe a little bit already. So you got the Route 66 Classic Car Show. You said there'll be a different theme or era of cars each day. Then you also have World Festival. Maybe you can describe that. Yeah. And then Olympic Experience.
Yeah, and that's just, there's a lot planned. We have different music groups planned for every day that'll be part of the entertainment, in addition to the opening and closing ceremonies. The World Festival of some great food vendors representing different parts of the world that'll be showcased at our event. And then the Olympic Experience, which is something we actually started, kind of foreshadowed where we'd actually end up. But I started doing that years ago to try to connect, to really bring and advance the Olympic movement in Oklahoma City. And so what that is just a way for kids and families to try different Olympic sports that are tied to Oklahoma, obviously with a focus on paddle sports and rowing, given where we're located, but also bringing in softball and gymnastics and actually rock climbing. Scott knows that. He's been to a rock climbing event here in Oklahoma City at one of our gyms. So all of these different Olympic sports we're working to, showcase as part of that. We actually have a new thing called the Mobile Boathouse, which will be an interactive experience that will be showcased where kids can get on kayak ergs and have kind of a virtual race on there. So so a variety of those kinds of fun fan engagement opportunities.
Scott, I mean, and from your point of view, you spent probably, well, 20 or more years in terms looking at canoe slalom in terms of that legacy and development of courses. So, I mean, that's a big deal for you.
It is. And when you talk about people coming to America and what are they gonna, be enthralled with or surprised with, and I watch this World Cup happening, and they're all excited about ranch dressing, right? I mean, it's a surprise every time. But when we have these athletes coming to Wausau and South Bend and staying with families, the thing that we hear about still when we go back and visit those people in Prague or other places is how amazing it was to stay with families and get to know people in America. And so really, I think one of the things that's going to shine through the most for Oklahoma City is the people, right? And if you're from Paris or, Holland or France or Spain or wherever, you don't know much about Oklahoma City. And the people from Oklahoma City, and it's not something that's showcased all over the world until now. And so I think that'll be the big takeaway. Obviously on a personal note, what we're hoping is showcased is this whitewater park that we built that's amazing, that allows people kind of at, what I would call the crossroads of America, right? If you're going north-south or east-west through middle America, you're going through Oklahoma City to stop and try whitewater sport, try rafting, try all these other adventures that Mike has built there along Boathouse Row, or be a part of a rowing team or a kayaking team and be invited to compete there. And so for us, what we really hope they see is this commitment to sport and these venues that we can make in America that, as you said, I think will continue to grow the sport as we move forward to 2028 and then beyond.
I've been looking back at our history, or US history in canoe slalom. Obviously, at the moment, the US team has an Olympic bronze medalist, Evie Leafoff. But the last American senior world champions were Fabienne Lefebvre, 2014, Rebecca Giddens, 2002, Kathy Hearn, 1979, which is Jonquière, as well as the dominance in C1 men by John Lugbill and Davy Herm through 79 to 95, obviously not forgetting C2. What are the prospects for Oklahoma Worlds from the US?
I'm going to talk all day about this, Mike, so if you want to jump in, go ahead.
You go for it, Scott.
I mean, Evie Leafoff is our red-hot favorite of all the people who are out there racing right now from the United States. She's a proven medalist. What we saw that other people didn't see was her winning junior national championships in America before she was big enough to paddle a full-size boat. So she was disqualified, even though she had beat these girls who were, 17, 18, 19 years old when she was 11 or 12. We saw her finally old enough to make the World Cup team and immediately medaling in Totson. And I think at the subsequent race that year, she's gone on to be a regular medalist. Watching her this year, fourth in the finals, struggling with this, maybe I think one medal at Augsburg. But we've also seen her sort of progressing and getting faster as she comes towards this World Championships. And one thing I wouldn't undersell is she has a huge home course advantage here. Nobody has paddled. None of the people she'll be racing, other than other U.S. team members, has paddled in Oklahoma City as much as Evie has. And so for me, she's a big favorite. Our other big, very exciting, sort of comeback right now is Miha Smolin, right? He raced for us. He was a U23 world champion, Olympic team member as well. Sort of dominant for the United States for several years, and then went off to coach in China, went off to coach in New Zealand. Now he's back and competing again, and you'd say, boy, that's a tough comeback, right? I mean, he's been away from the sport, but he was fourth at the first World Cup he was in, and his times at the other World Cup, I think he struggled in Prague a little bit, but his time in Augsburg would have put him into the semis, and so we're seeing somebody who's performing on that stage as well. So that's exciting. Again, Casey's getting older, right? But last year at the Olympic trials or I guess 2 years ago at the Olympic trials in Oklahoma City, Casey was dominant because Casey had to be dominant. And so he brought himself from way behind and put himself onto that Olympic team. Bug Smolin in the C1s, another athlete who does very well in Oklahoma City, who has probably a chip on his shoulder and wants to show how well he can perform there. And so super excited about him as well. I also look at Rhea Shribar, who's in the medals sometimes, right? And again, has that experience here. And so there's a lot of people to watch from America, and I'm pretty excited to see it. I realize there's a very strong international field coming to this race, but I'm pretty excited about our team.
Well, I think Scott really summarized it well. All of those folks, and we're looking to build a lot of excitement towards for the next 2 years, and having local favorites who are, Team USA athletes who perform well is going to really fuel more excitement towards LA 28. And I just recall being in Paris and welcoming our mayor of Oklahoma City, who showed up the day that Evie won the bronze medal. And he was able to watch her kind of come from, she was one of the first down the course, and just, we kept thinking, oh, she'll get, somebody's going to knock her out. And no, she stood in the medals mix all the way up to the end and getting the bronze medal. And he was just captivated by that. And I think it really helped build his excitement for the opportunity. And, just having, medal contenders and favorites here leading into LA, I think is really going to be great. There's already embedded excitement for also the new kayak cross, discipline. And so we're really trying to amplify that as well. That's something that here in the United States and America, people may not be totally familiar with canoe slalom, but you totally get kayak cross watching the what unfolds in that event. I've actually equated to some people, you're looking at this sort of almost like a NASCAR kind of going down the bump and run kind of mentality down the course, and the first one through the line wins. And that's something that for newbies, people who are experiencing the sport for the first time, I think we're going to build fans with that as well. And we're really excited about that. So.
Yeah, I also wanted to give a shout out to USA C1 women team who won bronze medal at the Junior Worlds in Krakow, which seems to speak very well for the future of canoe slalom in the US, LA 2028 and beyond.
Absolutely. It's great seeing these athletes train here and, how committed they are. I mean, I feel very optimistic about the future of the sport with the athletes that we have that we get to see here. So it'll be fun to see them perform on what, we're trying to make them really feel like this is really their home course. They're spending a lot of time here now, and we'll spend a lot of time in Oklahoma City for the next couple of years. So
who are you excited to see racing at OKC at Worlds this week?
I'm obviously big on the men's kayak class, and there's so many good people there that I think it blurs this rivalry, which I think is forming between Titouan and Ferrazzi, right? I mean, last year, Ferrazzi had been so fast when he won the Junior Worlds, and then Titouan was just winning everything last year as we went through that World Cup season. Ferrazzi just wasn't getting there, and you could see, again, that kind of fire building inside him. Everywhere I see him this year, I realize he didn't do as well as he hoped, I think, at the U23 World Championships. But every World Cup you see, he's the one going as fast as he can go down that course, and having a lot of success this year. And so I think that rivalry, along with Hocevar out of Slovenia, just watching those men's kayak come down, because it is, there's landed gentry out there, Olympic champions, Olympic medalists, Preskovic, the whole 9 yards that are so good. And at the same time, we've got this young group who started to take some of those medals away. And really 2 years before the Olympics traditionally is when you sort of see, that new group coming in and becoming the dominant group. And so I'm curious to see who takes that gold medal, whether it's Olgard or these new kids that are coming in. I think we're all super excited to see Jessica Fox back. There was a huge amount of concern last year about, is she couldn't race the world. She wasn't healthy enough to race the worlds. Can she come back and do this? And she has shown that she can do that in the World Cup. And I think kind of a sentimental favorite internationally to come in here. Obviously, when you talk about the greatest of all time, she's the one right now. And so to see her racing here in Oklahoma City is going to be very exciting as well. The C1 class is also very exciting, as and Hocevar is also, again, that younger generation coming up and starting to be dominant as you look at race results that are out there. And so watching him for me is going to be the probably one of the most exciting things going on out there, just from having raced with his father and now seeing him be so dominant in the C1 class. So a lot of exciting things to watch.
So Mike, you've got to know some of these international paddlers over the last 10 years or so. Who are you looking forward to seeing?
I've had the pleasure of getting to work a lot with Richard, Fox over the last few years, especially the last year, naturally, following his daughters and seeing the comeback with Jessica. Of course, just like Scott said, I think that's really cool to have her in Oklahoma City, and then Naomi and the surprise in Paris with the kayak cross, the finish. I think I've gotten to see her. She was here a couple months ago training And so, and it's hard to point out anyone in particular. I mean, I not picking favor. There's so many greats out there, and I have to say, as I echoed or mentioned earlier, just to see our I call them hometown heroes, even though that's not really their hometown, but having Evie and Casey back, and I mean, Casey, goodness, he's been at it for a long time, and then Bug and the whole team. Evie's mom's been has been interning for me, so she's been working with me on this. So I've gotten to know them, and there's just a great family, and look forward to seeing Evie's journey continue here. So just a lot of fun things to look out for and to watch.
This is the first race of 9, if I understood correctly. So yeah, so the significance, I think, of these worlds, which are still 2 years before, is higher than I think has previously been the case.
I have to explain this all the time because my wife and I met at an Olympic qualifying event for the 2000 Olympics. And people were like, oh, so you made the Olympic team in Spain, and it's not true. And the best way to explain it is, we're watching the World Cup right now. There's something like 120 countries that play soccer or football, I guess, for the international crowd. But at the Olympics, only 8 or 9 teams actually go there to compete. And so they have to have a pre-tournament to sort of whittle it down to who's going to compete in the Olympics for baseball or soccer or whatever those sports are, because you can't host that many teams in addition to all the other athletes. Right. Our sport works the same way. There's only so many spots for so many countries to race at the Olympic Games. And that selection process takes place prior to the Olympics to establish which countries are going. It doesn't necessarily select the people. Rhea Shribar could create the spot for the United States, but Evie Leitvarth could take it, or vice versa. This event that we're having in Oklahoma City for the 2026 World Championships is the first race that starts to set the stage for which countries will go on to compete in the 2028 Olympics here in LA. And so these athletes are not only thinking about, what am I doing for myself, but what am I doing for my country to make sure that we're represented at those Olympic Games?
That was a perfect explanation. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott.
Yeah, thank you. Made it much more coherent.
This event, we're also going to host the ICF Congress at the end. So, the fact that as we close the event on July 25th, the ICF Congress will be convening, and we'll be announcing the new name for the ICF here in Oklahoma City, and that's really exciting to be a part of that. We've got a little stunt thanks to Red Bull that'll be in play for that unveil, so stay tuned on that. We're really trying to make this an event that brings other international leaders in. There's something about an event like that really lends itself to sports diplomacy, bringing people together. So whether it be our Department of Commerce, our consul generals, being able to interact with and inviting their guests from around the world, all coming together against, within this really unique international sport environment. And so that's something that I know our state officials are excited about, our governor, our Department of Commerce secretary. Frankly, also LA 28 will be spending a lot of time here with some of their leaders, as well as the U.S. Olympic and Paralympic Committee. So we're taking a lot of notes for 2 years from now when we're hosting the Olympics. So
thank you, Mike. Scott, anything else you wanted to add?
This is going out to so many people, and the thing I want to reinforce is, like, World Championships are fun, right? It's not the biggest show on earth, but it's close. And, I go to all these climbing events where I cheer for my son, other people cheer for their kids. And this is one of those events where you can come and cheer on Team America as it moves one step closer to the Olympics, as it wins medals for the United States in World Championship competition. There's a lot of noise. There's a lot of fun. There's a lot of rivalries to see. And so coming down there and watching this event at Riversport Rapids in Oklahoma City is going to be one of the most exciting things happen in paddle sports all year long, especially in a low water year. So if you can make it, come out, join us, cheer for Team USA, or cheer for whatever team you want to cheer for, but be a part of this World Championships is going to be amazing.
Yeah, and just one more thing to add on. It's like, truly, we're a community where we're the 21st largest city in America. So we're a pretty big size city, yet people are very excited and connected and want to support this event. Being in that, for example, the recent world champions in basketball, the Oklahoma City Thunder, didn't quite make it this year, but they made a strong run. They are going to be present and they're going to be involved. And we've been educating their team, their staff about the sport. And so we've got some surprises in store there as well. So it's fun when you can bring a professional sport league like within the NBA to introduce them to this whole other sport, and then they feel excited about it because they want to support their town, their city as well. So a lot of things like that are in store, and we look forward to showcasing that to the world.
That was Scott Shipley and Mike Knopp. Scott is an American 3 times World Championship silver medalist, now the Whitewater Division Manager of S2O Design. He represented the USA at the Olympics in Atlanta and Sydney. He spoke to us from home in Lyons, Colorado, USA. Mike Knopp is the founder of Riversport and head of competition. He spoke to us from Oklahoma City, USA. Our reigning world champions are Klaudia Zwolinska from Poland in women's canoe and kayak, Titouan Castrik from France in men's kayak, and Nico Guestin from France in men's canoe. In kayak cross individual, Elena Marks from Switzerland and David Laurenti from Spain. And in kayak cross head-to-head, Angèle Hug from France and Joe Clark from Great Britain. There will also be team races to watch in Oklahoma City, with kayak teams on Tuesday and canoe teams on Wednesday. Thanks to my guests today, Scott Shipley and Mike Knopp. Our next episode at 6 a.m. Central Daylight Time tomorrow will preview the kayak cross individual with help from Sam Lever and my co-host Rebecca Giddens. I'm John Gregory. Thanks for listening. If you enjoy the podcast, tell other people, send them a link, like, follow, or write a review. And if you need more, keep reading Ettore Evaldi's brilliantly insightful and eloquent blog, now celebrating its 20th anniversary. Stay safe.
That's it for now, but please subscribe to the podcasts on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or YouTube, and leave a review too. Until the next episode, keep it fast and clean.